Hello everyone, my name is Kristen McVey and this is my video report on Nigeria. So to begin with, I was interested in Nigeria because I was completely unfamiliar with the country. But from the initial research that I did, I saw that they were struggling with their government financial reporting as far as the transparency in that goes. But the CIA World Factbook also showed that they had increased their public infrastructure by almost 30% over each year for the past 3 years. And those two occurrences didn't really match to me or make sense to me, so I really wanted to learn more. The official title of Nigeria is the Federal Republic of Nigeria. They are the 7th most populous country in the world. They have over 500 different tribes of people and therefore over 500 languages spoken. They originally gained independence from England in 1960 and ratified their constitution in 1963, removing Queen Elizabeth as the figurehead. The CIA World Factbook shows that Nigeria has experienced significant civilian turmoil going back and forth between military rule and democratically elected rule until 2015, when they elected their current president, Muhammadu Buhari. Some relevant ethical organizational specific facts that I feel are necessary are the fact that there are over 500 different tribes of people. That's a lot of different people, a lot of different cultures, and a lot of different backgrounds that come into play in one country. There are 3 main religious affiliations throughout Nigeria. The first and major one is Islam, the second is Christianity, and the third is a mix of local indigenous religions. According to Tertsakian in 2015, a lot of the local indigenous religions are held and observed by mainly the elderly populations. The CIA World Factbook reports that 49.4% of Nigerians are under the age of 18, and this burgeoning youth population that they have are really moving more towards Islam and Christianity or non-affiliated religions than sticking solely with the indigenous religions that they are accustomed to. The land in Nigeria is essentially divided in half between Islamic states and Christian or indigenous religious states. The states that are Islam-based observe a different type of legal system than the states that are Christian or indigenous-based. The states that are predominantly Islam observe Sharia law, which is mostly bound with criminal law and civil law, whereas the Christian states or the indigenous religious states observe English common law and operate according to that. It really depends on where you are in the country and how you move from state to state and to see what legal system you can adhere to. So as you can see in the picture, the periwinkle-ish blue color at the top are the states that are Sharia governed and are predominantly Islam. 12 of those states have pledged allegiance to the Islamic State of Iraq, which has caused a lot of civilian turmoil in the country. The middle area, the yellow area, is a mix between Islam, Christianity, and indigenous religions. Some resources say that it is strictly Christian or strictly indigenous religion, but I think the true and honest answer is that it is both. The purple area at the bottom are the states that are predominantly Christian. They have the tribes that are adopting more Western cultures and practices, not necessarily Christianity as a religion, but just more of a Western lifestyle than anything else. In the center of Nigeria, in the white part, is the capital, Abuja. It is the only territory in Nigeria. They have their own governing body, so they do not adhere to Sharia law, English common law, or indigenous law. Their legal system is set up kind of like our Supreme Court as far as it has different justices that are representative from different types of religions. So I think there's 15 and there's 5 from each. There's 5 Islamic-based representatives, there's 5 indigenous representatives, and then there's 5 Christian English common law representatives. The first issue that I would most likely face as an organizational leader working in Nigeria would be intolerance and acceptance of diversity in the workplace. Assuming that the business is located in Abuja, which is a central location, and there's not an overwhelming presence of one religious affiliation or tribe of people or another, the editors at logbaby.com say that the tribes of people do not coexist peacefully. Therefore, in the workplace, we're going to have to face intolerance head on. A second issue that I would likely face is choosing which legal system to observe and adopt at the business and how to operate accordingly through that. According to Morty, Opiyemi, Tonbara, and Ojo, corporate social responsibility is still a relatively new concept to Nigerian lawmakers, regardless of their political legal system affiliation. Even since that particular essay was written in 2012, there's been little advancement made by the Nigerian government to concretely nail down a particular legal system and set of laws for businesses to operate by. So the first step in the moral decision-making method is to identify the relevant stakeholders. For the intolerance scenario, we will assume that we have the Hausa and the Yoruba people. The Hausa people are from northern Nigeria, which, as we saw, is predominantly Islam-based. The Yoruba people are found mostly in mostly the southwestern area of Nigeria, and are predominantly Christian-based, and they have a Western lifestyle. Whereas the Hausa is very traditional, very Islamic, traditional-based lifestyle. The relevant stakeholders, therefore, would be the Hausa and the Yoruba people at large, the business itself, the employees and their families, the surrounding community, whether that is the end users who actually benefit from the goods and services of the business, or the industry in which the business operates, and all vendors and suppliers involved with the business. In the legal system scenario, the business is trying to adopt whether they want to adhere to Sharia law or focus on English common law. Therefore, the relevant stakeholders are going to be the business as a whole, the employees, their families, the surrounding communities, and all other business partners involved. So, as you can see, according to this map, the Hausa and the Fulani people dominate northern Nigeria. The Hausa and the Fulani people are very similar in culture and tradition. Some sources say that they stem from the same lineage. Regardless, their cultures and their traditions were heavily influenced from Islam, and so that is why they dominate so much of northern Nigeria, which is predominantly agricultural farmland. The Yoruba are in the southwestern part of Nigeria and are very similar to the Igbo people. They are both predominantly Christian and or indigenous religious based. What makes it interesting is because in the southern part of Nigeria is where all of their ports come in. So the Yoruba and the Igbo people are the first to adopt any healthcare advances, any technological advances, and other new products and services that come into play. And therefore, they do not live necessarily a traditional kind of conservative lifestyle. It's very Western, it's very modern. A lot of southern Nigeria is mainly cities and industrial based, whereas, like I said, the northern part of Nigeria is agricultural farmland. The next step in the moral decision-making method is to identify the stakeholders' interests. For the intolerance scenario, we have the Hausa people who want to spread their religion and their traditional lifestyle. We also have the Yoruba people who don't necessarily want to spread their religion, but they want to spread their Western cultures and their way of life and their technological advancements throughout the rest of Nigeria. We also have the employees and all shareholders and other stakeholders involved. The employees just want to work and provide for their families and make sure that their families and themselves and their local communities are taken care of no matter what. In the legal systems scenario, the business itself has a major stakeholder interest in that they need to choose a legal system that benefits them the best so that they can continue to grow and continue to grow ethically. The employees also have a major stakeholder interest in the legal system because they need fair and safe working conditions that allow them to operate with other vendors, external people who may be of a different tribe of a religion with them, even if their particular religion does not really condone them operating and working with people from like alternative tribes. The final stakeholder interest in the legal system scenario is going to be the surrounding community and business partners. Whether that, like I said, is that community is the end users or the industry as a whole, it's very imperative for the business to choose the best legal system that's going to work for the industry, work for the customers, work for the community, so that it matches their principles with their legal system, or at least allows them to work together in harmony. The next step in the moral decision-making method is to identify all alternative actions. For the intolerance scenario, there are 3 actions to address it. One option is to employ only one group of people over another and therefore homogenize the company. According to an essay written in 2000, this option could provide the simplest way to address the situation of intolerance, easily. A second option is to implement a tolerance education program and a code of ethics to address behaviors and teach employees how to accept each of their differences and work together for the health of the business overall. According to the contributors at Mission Tradition, many Nigerians have little understanding of tolerance. The CIA World Factbook reports that the average age of a Nigerian to complete their education is about 12 or 13. So a tolerance education program could offer the employees an understanding many have yet to experience. A third and final option is to completely move the business to a different, perhaps more homogenized location. According to Tertsakian in 2015, northern Nigeria, which is predominantly Hausa and Islamic based, is growing in the industrial sector. This option would provide a solution to addressing intolerance by eliminating some of the factors causing the civil unrest within the company. For the legal system scenario, there are also 3 options. One option is to adopt only Islamic Sharia law. According to Tertsakian, Sharia doesn't necessarily have a specific law basis for business operations. However, it does provide a lot of guidance for civil and ethical behaviors that could be applied to the business. A second option would be to adopt English common law. According to an essay written in 2010 by Elongo, Paul, Kundu, and Padel, English common law is the most commonly accepted legal system in international business. This option could open up a larger number of trade partners to the business and have a greater benefit to the people of Nigeria. The third option is to adopt a combination of both Sharia law and English common law as applicable to the business. Elongo, Paul, Kundu, and Padel propose in their essay that considering the current legal system and cultural practices of a particular country benefit the business overall and allow for trade or other business options for partners that could be international. This option could promote smaller businesses in Nigeria also to grow and work with our business as well. The next step in the moral decision-making method is to weigh the pros and cons for each scenario, and we will begin with the intolerance scenario. The first option on the left-hand side is employing one tribe or the other. A pro is that this solves the problem. It's going to create a more amicable workplace, and things are going to transition a lot smoother. Con is that it's going to create a lot of tension with vendors and suppliers of different tribes and different religious backgrounds. It could also have irreparable effects on the business and the reputation of the business, not only within the industry, but within the surrounding community as well. Remember, the business is based in Abuja, where there's a mix of tons of different tribes and backgrounds. So choosing one tribe or another could have a major effect on the clientele that the business brings in. Another con is that it doesn't really allow for one tribe or the other to spread their particular desired influence. They're not going to be able to meet their particular stakeholders' interest. The second option is to move the business. A pro to this is that it solves the problem, makes business a lot easier to do, and also kind of homogenizes the environment so that there's a lot less tension. A con to this is that it is a high financial burden to the business to completely uproot and move to a different location. It's going to cost certain stakeholders their jobs. The ones that, for example, if we choose to move the business from Abuja into southern Nigeria, where it is more Western culture, a lot of Christian-based religious people, it's going to have a really negative effect on the Hausa people that are Islamic-based and don't have their jobs anymore. Another con is that it could have damaging effects to the old and the new communities overall. If you completely remove a business that feeds a lot of people regardless of their tribe affiliation from Abuja and move it to a different part of Nigeria, you're taking out a major source of life and income and exports to Abuja, but the new area will benefit from it. Another con for moving the business, is that it does allow for one group to spread their desired influence. It's also kind of like the business taking a stance and saying that they agree with one way of life or one religious affiliation more than another, and therefore allowing that particular tribe of people to win, I guess you could say, quote unquote, win. The third option for the intolerance scenario is implementing a tolerance program and code of ethics into the business. A pro to this is that it provides tools for employees to learn how to accept diversity. As previously stated, the CIA World Factbook reports that most Nigerians don't continue a formal education past the age of 12 or 13. So this this concept of tolerance is going to be completely new, and it would probably be very, very beneficial to all people. By implementing the code of ethics, it provides a standard of behavior that is applied to all employees, regardless of tribe affiliation or religious affiliation. Another pro is that it prevents one group from spreading their influence over the business entirely. A con to this option is that humans have free will. You cannot force somebody to accept someone else. You cannot force somebody to be tolerant of another group of people or another way of life. Another con is that could upset some of the stakeholders and shareholders involved by having to work with other tribes, or by forcing them to work with other tribes in order to do business. For the legal system scenario, the pros and cons, the first two options are to adopt Sharia law or to adopt English common law. A pro to adopting strictly Sharia law is that it is widely accepted in a majority of Nigeria. The CIA World Factbook reports that over 51% of Nigerians operate under Sharia law. And another pro is that a portion of the stakeholders would benefit from this. A con is that Sharia law is based from religious views, and it's debatable whether or not that should be brought into the workplace. Another con is that it could damage the business's reputation in the industry. Don't forget, this business is based in Abuja, where there is no overwhelming presence of an affiliation. So by the business taking a stance of just strictly Sharia law, you are essentially cutting out a large portion of your potential customers. Another con is that it could create further tension in the community at large, as well as within the business. Another final con is that Sharia law is typically very traditional. Abuja is a growing, modernizing city. So to try to incorporate very traditional law, it is questionable as to how it would be received from all involved. On the other hand, we have adopting strictly English common law. A pro for this is that it accounts for criminal and civil law, as well as some business laws, whereas Sharia law only has criminal and civil law. English common law is growing in popularity and being adopted more frequently throughout parts of Nigeria and throughout different businesses. English common law would also foster trade with a larger number of vendors and potentially other suppliers and vendors internationally, which would bring in more money to not only the business but Nigeria as a whole. A con to adopting English common law is that it will also create tension with a larger number of people. Islamic-based people make up 51% of the population, like I said. By strictly operating with English common law, it's only going to create further tension with that majority of the people. It could also be received as the business being unreceptive to the local culture. Because Sharia law and Islam is so widely accepted and so common in Nigeria, for a business to completely take a stance of only English common law is kind of disrespectful to that major part of Nigerian culture. The third option for the legal system scenario is to adopt a combination of both legal systems where it is applicable to the business. A pro for this choice is that it allows the company to adopt laws that are native to Nigeria, So, for example, adopting Sharia law for certain things or for civilian behaviors in certain regards for the company shows that the company is being receptive to the local traditions and the local cultures, because morality is not a matter of opinion. It also allows for businesses to operate with more autonomy in the control of their operations. So they have the choice of how they are going to run their business, who they're going to run their business with, and how they are going to judge their people according to it. A con to adopting a combination of both legal systems is that it could create difficulties with transparency in operations, particularly with financial reporting. English common law has laws that are specifically set for how a business should report its financials, but Sharia law doesn't necessarily have the same type of legal system, so it would just depend on the business making sure that they really understood and were really careful with how they reported their financial documents and their transparency of other operations as well. Another con to doing this is that it could create tensions with vendors and or other stakeholders. If vendors are being forced to work with a legal system or a group of people that they don't necessarily like, it could create further civil tension and civil unrest that the country is already experiencing. The next step in the moral decision-making method is to identify the conflicting principles. For the intolerance scenario, the option of homogenizing the business by choosing to employ one group of people or another shows how non-injury conflicts with universalizability. The option of moving the business shows that harm prevention conflicts with non-injury, because not only is the company choosing to cause harm to another particular tribe, but also they are not acting in a way that leaves others better than they found them. The third option of implementing a tolerance program shows how universalizability conflicts with harm prevention. By acting in a way that is universal to all people, the company cannot guarantee that harm will not be prevented toward all people. For the legal system scenario, adopting only Sharia law shows how non-injury conflicts with honesty. Adopting only English common law shows how the golden rule conflicts with non-injury and justice. Mixing both Sharia and English common law shows that justice conflicts with the golden rule, because the golden rule states that you should act towards others how you would hope they should act towards you. This conflicts with having fair, ethical, and unbiased justice in the workplace. The next step is step 8, and it's the applicable principles. For the intolerance scenario, universalizability overrides harm prevention. It is better to act in a way that benefits more people and is applicable to all people regardless of cultures, backgrounds, or religious affiliation than to try to prevent harm from happening to someone. In the legal system scenario, justice overrides the golden rule. If the golden rule states that you should act towards somebody how you would expect they should act towards you, that can be taken in a number of different contexts, whether positive or negative. Therefore, choosing justice regardless of what you think should be done or how you think it should be done, choosing justice that benefits more people and more of the society at large is the best way to do that. Step 9. Identify the preferable action. For the intolerance scenario, the preferable action is to implement a tolerance education program and code of ethics. For the legal system scenario, the preferable action is to choose to adopt a mixture of both Sharia law and English common law as applicable to parts within the business. My justification for implementing the tolerance program into the business is based on the fact that morality is not a matter of opinion. In a business context, it's better to place focus on the overall health of the business by placing importance and value within the employees and the way they treat one another. Thus far in our class, we've read several examples of how investing in the well-being of your employees provides exponential health and even financial returns for the business. According to the contributors of Mission Tradition, Nigeria is in desperate need of a tolerance education system. Considering that most Nigerians don't receive a formal education past the age of 12 or 13, and combining that with the deep-rooted civil unrest that they experience, I think it would be the best decision to implement a tolerance education program and code of ethics to address the intolerance in the workplace. My justification for adopting a mixture of both Sharia law and English common law again stems from the fact that morality is not a matter of opinion. Choosing one type of law completely over another is unethical in a globalized business context. According to Tertzakian, there's a lot of benefits to Islamic Sharia law. Especially considering that it's accepted in a majority of Nigeria, it would behoove the business to be respectful of the local traditions while also adopting laws and a legal system to open up other opportunities for business. This action also allows the business a greater control of their operations and who they do business with. That's it. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about Nigeria. Feel free to contact me with any questions you may have.